it's interesting because like, you know, Chris McKay, not like a well-known director, directing like such a huge budget film like this, written by Zach Dean, also not a very well-known writer, nothing really notable to name. Got some stuff coming out. He's only written two things, but cinematographer Larry Fong, huge list.
Yes, Larry Fong, and we may want to do this on record. I don't know. Do you want to start the episode about it?
Already started.
Oh, okay. So, okay, let's just continue our conversation then real quick before we open up the Lomo Lounge.
Yep.
Larry Fong, you said was his name?
Yeah.
He was a guest on Doughboys. So part of the reason, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to After the Movies. This is a very low-key introduction, but I do want to get to this real quick. Today we were talking about Chris McKay's new blockbuster, The Tomorrow War, available now on Amazon Prime. Part of the reason that I wanted to watch this movie so bad is because my favorite podcast is Doughboys. It is a fast food podcast, comedy podcast.
Dude, ladies and gentlemen, that is his absolute favorite podcast, even more than these podcasts, because he talks about it all the time. This man is a doughboy himself.
It's true. I am a doughboy myself. And Doughboy host, the Spoon Man himself, Mr. Slice, Mike Mitchell, is in this film. And it makes me so happy and excited to see him have such a great opportunity in this role. But Larry Fong was a guest on Doughboys. They did a Tomorrow War month where they had guests from the movie.
That's really cool.
They had the man who did the score. Composer. I don't know why that was escaping my head. They had the composer, the cinematographer. They had Sam Richardson on. Chris Pratt came on for an interview. So and Chris McKay came on. They had a really well-rounded month of Tomorrow War stuff. But they talked to Larry Fong about his history of he did music videos. He did Losing My Religion by REM. He did a Madonna video. And in addition to that, he is Zack Snyder's kind of go-to guy.
Yep.
He did 300. He did Batman vs. Superman, Man of Steel, a film that I like, that nobody else likes, that I think is pretty interesting and pretty solid. And there's a very... people should go listen to the Doughboys podcast, but there's an interesting moment where they talk about how everyone notoriously hates the scene in Batman versus Superman where they both realize that their mother's names are Martha, and how I like that scene. Mike Mitchell likes that scene. The cinematographer really likes that scene. So there's an interesting moment where they talk about that and how they were like really surprised that people hated it so much.
That's cool. I'll have to check it out. And if
very storied career that man has.
You get one person to listen to the Doughboys podcast, damn it'll be me, Aaron. It'll be me.
I'm not going to tell you to listen to it because you're currently doing a great job of fasting and watching what you eat. And this podcast will unfortunately make you want to DoorDash Taco Bell every single day of your life. But it's once a week. So you know what? You should listen to it. It's very much worth it.
Nice.
And with that being said, it was such a weird, low-key, long-ended intro into this, but I'm so excited about today's episode because, Jimmy, I don't want to speak for you. I had a great time watching this movie.
Aaron, I just want to tell you something. I have been enjoying doing these podcasts with you. I like doing Shooting the Bit. I love doing At the Movies. I am even enjoying our new podcast that you're listening to right now, After the Movies. But holy fuck, am I happy that we finally have a good movie to talk about.
Jimmy's been having a rough one. We've had a rough couple weeks.
Holy shit.
We had a rough... The Conjuring just about killed me. The amusement park just about killed Jimmy for different reasons.
Yep.
But we finally have a fun movie that there's so much I want to dig into, from the reception it's getting and why it's annoying to me, to just all of the reasons I had so much fun with it. But the first thing we got to do is we got to open up the Lomo Lounge for After the Movies. Pull up the gates, turn the little blinking sign on. But Jimmy, what are you drinking tonight? I know you're not drinking alcohol right now, so what do you got?
Gotta turn on our Logo Lounge Himalayan salt.
I was like, what's going on here?
Ladies and gentlemen, as we know, not a sponsor, but Gatorade Zero, keeping me hydrated always. That is what I'm
And
drinking.
if I'm not mistaken, that's a grape.
Yep.
Great flavor. Great Gatorade flavor. The purple is my favorite.
You should know what my other flavor is in the fridge. I bought 2 of them.
Is it electric blue? Orange?
No, it's
Electric
blue. No, you're good. It's blue.
It's blue. Everybody, yeah, those are the best. Those are the best ones for sure. The purple Gatorade Frost is a go-to for me. Although I think that one's full sugar, so the zero is the right choice. And I drink so much Powerade Zero, purple Powerade Zero. It's unhealthy. I myself, for a couple of reasons today, have a Smirnoff Rocket Pop, Smirnoff Ice. It is a lot of people make jokes about Smirnoff Ice. This Rocket Pop flavor is a limited edition thing. It comes out seasonally. I just love it. I don't know what to tell you. It's not good for you. It's full of sugar, I'm sure. So I only get, a couple 6-packs a summer, and I try to take my time with them. But what better way to watch this blockbuster, this 4th of July blockbuster film than with an American flag colored sugar, water, alcohol mixture that is neon blue, like much of the CGI in the film.
It's cool because I was with you the first time you ever got any of those.
It is, and you had one. What would your review be? I don't know if you remember.
Well, for anybody that watches us, you're gonna learn over time that I am not a fan of sugary drinks at all. Aaron is.
I've seen. Yeah, you gagged when you tried my Pepsi Blue.
Yep, and
you were like, "Bleh."
I can drink one of those Smirnoff things and then do this the rest of the night. Sorry for that ASMR for anybody, for our listeners there, but makes my mouth tacky.
Gonna pivot to an ASMR movie podcast.
Come to after the movies.
The thing I love about Martin Scorsese is the way that he's in the back seat of the taxi driver's seat. All right, enough. Let's talk about the Tomorrow War. This is a movie that, again, I was excited for because of Mike Mitchell's involvement primarily. I am not the biggest Chris Pratt fan in the world. I'm not a huge Jurassic World fan.
And why aren't you a Chris Pratt fan, Aaron?
Because he's a fat guy traitor.
The fat guy traitor.
I don't support big boys like us bettering themselves. That's why I'm mad at you right now, actually, for losing weight and making me look like a big old hunk of turd.
You got a couple months before it's noticeable. Don't worry.
Got to savor it while it lasts. No, I like Chris. I think Chris Pratt's a very good, very charismatic. Obviously, I do like, and you know what? As not a Marvel person, as we'll kind of maybe talk a little bit about in this podcast, because I do think it's relevant to current blockbusters. I think the Guardians movies are some of my favorite in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, they're really good.
I think he does a great job in those. I soured on Jurassic World a little bit, but the most exciting thing about this movie, the trailer came out, and I was like, oh boy, I don't know about this one. It looks kind of just generic kind of thing, and I just truly feel like it was anything but. I think the main thing about this is, like, right now we are, and this is we've talked about this before on the podcast, so I'm gonna preface this by saying not to shit on Marvel or Marvel fans. Like what you like. I love Star Wars, and Star Wars is doing the same thing. But we are kind of stuck in this loop of all of the major films and blockbusters are some kind of IP that's already been done. It's either a remake, a reboot, a sequel. It's Captain America 14. It's something that already exists, and it's more of it. And this is an original IP. It's not adapted from anything. It's an original story. And my quick once over because I want to hear your thoughts, would just be that I think this movie successfully blends genres. I think the creature design is genuinely scary. Right, parts of it reminded me of Alien. I think the comic relief is genuinely funny, and it's not like this Marvel kind of humor sometimes where somebody will go, yeah, that happened. Like, it was actually, there was jokes that were funny. The action, the set pieces were crazy, crazy good. This was a huge budget movie. It looked good, in my opinion, and more than anything, and this is the biggest thing I think people might disagree with, but I thought the emotional stuff in this movie, the sentimentality, really genuinely worked for me in a way that a lot of other blockbusters I think are a lot more surface level.
Yeah.
Um, I think this one genuinely kind of made me feel some things. So overall, I had a great time with this film. And I want to hear what your expectations were going in, and what you
Yeah.
enjoyed and pulled out of it.
So I'll be honest, I was ready to rip this freaking thing apart. I mean, we talked about it a little bit. Like the last couple after the movies have not been a huge fan.
Kind to Jimmy.
Yeah, but I want to preface, I thought the amusement park was well done. Like it didn't hurt me. It just the story
It's
and
hard.
its
Yeah.
message just tore at me. So with that aside, um I was ready to go in, and especially when I knew it was about time travel, I was like, you better close these loops, which is funny because I'm also writing a script on a time travel thing. So like
Right.
I better be careful about how critical I am of time of time travel. But I right off the bat, they close any of these paradoxes that could possibly happen. They touch on the first one that came to mind. I'm like, they're going back in time. They're collecting these people to fight in this war. So that means that the people that are there in the future won't be there because, like, if they die, then they can't, and it creates this weird thing. But
Somebody's parent died. They
yeah,
couldn't have the child that's in the future. Right.
but they part of the screening is that they only send you if you're dead already and like you've already pretty much accomplished everything you were going to in the next 7 years, it seems like. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And then they did another smart thing where they just explained it like we can go 30 years forward and 30 years back. It's a raft and it just keeps moving. I was like, perfect. Because then it
Yeah.
stops at like, why didn't you just go back before the war started?
Right. Yeah, I think that this puts more, it didn't feel like a throwaway thing to me either. It felt like they genuinely explained some things that other movies probably wouldn't have. The raft analogy I love because it reminds me of any time in a movie where there's a wormhole. They're like the closest point is straight, so they like fold a piece of paper and they stick a pencil through it. It reminded me of something like that where it's they boiled down this thing that's easy for the audience to understand. Um and it works because these people are not all scientists that are gathered to learn about time travel or whatever. These are normal people just like the audiences. They're pulling civilians and stuff. So it doesn't feel like condescending or anything. Um, that got huge points for me for sure.
It kind of makes me laugh because they set up the Chris Pratt hero thing hard. So basically, they open up. He's like really trying to get this new job that he knows will better his family. He gets turned down for it, and then he goes through this like emotional crisis that I think, at least for me, I know I've been going through, where it's like I know I'm meant to do something more. This isn't it. I know. Like
Right.
I can at least say that I experienced the same thing. So that like sat with me really well. And then he does get to win. He wins. So it's pretty. It
Right.
was it was awesome to see.
It's a movie that we talked about this, and I won't gonna spoil what it is yet. We talked about this about a movie we're covering in the future. There has been this kind of, I think, these films that kind of have they prefer a twist ending over a happy ending, and so it's like not satisfying at all sometimes. And it depends on the kind of movie you're watching, but this is a movie, spoilers, with a happy ending, that earns it, I think, and
It's
that
got
leaves
two
the audience
endings
feeling
actually.
satisfied. That's the crazy. So the only thing that I would knock this movie for, and it kind of fixes itself, is once Chris Pratt returns from the future, most movies would probably end there. This is a 2 hour and 20-minute film. Um, Most movies would end with him bringing back this toxin to kill. They find out that these aliens. So yes, the plot of this movie, briefly, real quick, is essentially in 30 years, aliens have totally decimated the planet, most of the population, and so people in the future come back in time to draft present day civilians into going into the future and fighting these aliens and fighting this war. So Chris Pratt, inevitably, something that I had kind of figured would happen. He's got a small daughter in the present day, and in the future, he runs into, of course, somebody. She loves science in the movie, and so 30 years he runs into her, and she is a scientist and somebody who is leading this future war efforts. These future war efforts, and so she's looking for this toxin that's going to kill the mother, the queen alien, kind of. It does. This movie references a lot of blockbusters, which I like too, and we'll get to that at some point. But um, so he goes back in time. He takes the toxin with him. They find out the aliens have been there on Earth since before they thought they landed, and so they go to Russia, where the ship is buried in the ice. Kind of a reference to The Thing, which I love, which Chris McKay also loves. Um, to use this toxin. Um, and I forget where I was going with all of this. That was such a long-winded plot
The
synopsis.
toxin that they barely use, so they fight their way into the snow. They let off all of this like C4 dynamite that exposes this giant ice cube of where the ship is landed, which I don't know, I must have missed them like well, like placing it. I don't know. It's like it was
Like finding it?
no, like I missed them like just being like, "All right, blow it." And they blew all that like string of dynamite that was there. I was
Right.
like, "What? When did they have time to do that?
Yeah.
When did this happen?"
Uh, God, what was I gonna say? Oh, I was talking about the ending. The two endings. So any other movie would have ended with Chris Pratt bringing the toxin back, and they would explain it away with, and we mass produced it and it worked, and it's the end, and the future war never happened. This movie goes into its, like, it felt like to me a fourth act almost. And it's part of it is also because right before the path to him getting the toxin, there's this massive action set piece that happens like on the ocean, like on a big like rig kind of area, and it's so big. This set piece is massive that it's like you are very much expecting this to be the end of the movie, especially with spoilers throughout this whole thing, especially with his daughter dying in that timeline. You really think like this is the end. This movie goes into overtime, and he takes the toxin himself to Russia to destroy a bunch of aliens because he, for whatever reason, and hey, look, you could poke holes in this thing because it's a big blockbuster thing or whatever. It's probably best not to think too hard about it. For whatever reason, he brings his toxin back, and the governments are like, no, 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 we don't want to do that. It's like the mayor in Jaws. He's like, well, what? Close the beach. What are we talking about here? So he's like, all right, I guess I'm gonna go get my government escaping dad and like fly into Russian airspace and do this shit myself, which is pretty cool. And I was like, oh, this is starting to feel a little bit long. I kind of thought this was going to be over by now, but again, that battle, that final fight sequence that happens in like the Russian snow is so much fun, and so worth it. It's small scale as opposed to that huge rig set piece, but it's still very memorable. I like they change environments in this. This a big concern of mine. Seeing the trailer and stuff was that they were, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a 2 hour movie that's just set in the city. It just looks the same the whole way through. There's multiple set pieces in this. There's like jungle area, there's the snow, there's the city stuff. It does kind of really take you on a trip.
Yeah.
So um
I think it was funny when they were like jumping and then they were like they did that thing and they were like abort, abort, abort. And then all of a sudden you just see him like jumping into the sky and everyone's just like smashing onto the buildings except for all of the main
it,
characters who landed completely nice into the
in the water.
into the
This
water.
was a little bit scarier and a little bit darker than I thought a PG-13 movie would be.
Yeah, I was
You
actually surprised when you like I was like, "What?" It's a
Yeah, because
PG-13.
like the people hitting the buildings and smashing off the pavement or whatever, it's not like you see them like splattering or anything, but You do see later on in the movie, the aliens are called White Spikes. You do see Queen White Spike like rips a guy in half. Like there is, so it's not like close up gore, but there's definitely a fair amount of blood. And like I said, that's kind of what reminds me most of Aliens. There, I don't think there's horror necessarily in this movie, but something I always keep in mind is the first Alien movie is a horror film. The second Alien movie, Aliens, is an action film, and it's like the difference between horror and terror. And that's what I would call this movie, is that there is like the terror of something chasing you that you can't escape, you know, or
Yeah.
facing something unknown. The creature design is awesome. I was like, oh, it's kind of this thing that can do anything, like, oh, like it's, you know, it's undefeatable or whatever. But that's not the case here. And there's a mix of practical effects and digital effects that I don't think there was, I mean, maybe one moment in the movie where I said I could, oh, like the CGI looks a little rough. I thought the CGI looked good in this
Yeah, I thought
personally.
everything looked good, and like it's crazy that like I'm applauding Chris McKay for not having like a big feature behind him to pull something like this off. And obviously like a director surrounds himself with a great team. That's how you make it's not just him. Like he surrounded himself with the right people. The right people were in development. He had the right cinematographer, he had the right VFX artists, he had the right everything. But man, I'm looking forward to more uh movies from him. I really am.
Well, so let's talk about how this is being received, because I wouldn't say it's being received poorly, but I would say that it is getting pretty mixed reviews. And it's frustrating to me. I can't tell if this is something where I can't tell if I'm jaded or if I have bad taste, and it's probably both of those things.
We don't have bad
But
taste.
it is,
We have two movie podcasts. How could we possibly have bad
how
taste
could
in
we?
movies?
What? Excuse me. We hated Raging Bull. How could we have bad
Jesus.
taste in
Come on.
film? Um, but it is this thing of like, it's frustrating that this movie that I really thought was so original, and it doesn't tonally feel like, when I say it's terrifying and it's funny and there's action, I mean, it takes a really good team and director to blend those things so that it doesn't feel, incoherent. And this movie does it well. And so it's very frustrating to me when we are getting 10, again, if you like what you like, but when we're getting like 10 Marvel movies a year and get one of these that's an original story, and I think it really tells its story well and is a fun watch and is original, to see it not get the kind of praise that something like Black Widow might be getting now, which might be a great movie. I don't know. I haven't seen it, but
I still
just to see it. Go
it
ahead.
it still cracks me up, and like I haven't seen it yet, so don't take this seriously. Any Marvel fans that watch this, because I also like the majority of the Marvel films. But somebody on Twitter, I was like, Jesus, what'd you do? Film this on a Zoom call? And it like was so funny because you could see the two green screens. Just
So
made me laugh.
green screened out.
Uh huh.
Yeah. I just wish. I wish this was fair and better. I hope that Chris. I hope that the right people see this. I hope that Chris McKay gets to do another. They are talking about a sequel to this, which is interesting and cool. And it must. I'm curious how this would have done in theaters. I feel like it probably would have done fairly well. You got to take like some of the pandemic stuff into account, because we were still kind of, it was like right when the mask mandate ended. Um, but I think this would have done fairly well for a blockbuster. Amazon bought it, so you can watch it now on Amazon Prime. I'm hoping that enough people watched it that it does get greenlit. And hey, even though he died, I'm hoping they bring back my boy Mr. Slice. Want to see the man back in action.
I love
Some great
how
com
I love how happy
some
you
great
were to
comic
see him. It was I've never seen you this happy. You were like, oh, there he is.
There's my boy. Yeah, a man that I've never met, who, if I get him to listen to this on Twitter, is going to listen to this and be terrified. Let me grab my charger real quick. Yeah, you got some great comic relief in this movie between Mike Mitchell and Sam Richardson. Mike Mitchell's big laugh for me was when he clearly like this nervous guy who does not belong in battle. He's with a girl who Chris Pratt's like, "What's your name?" and the girl's like, "Nora," and he's like, "What's your name?" and Mike Mitchell's like, "Nora." I mean, Cohen. That's a good bit. And then Sam Richardson, man, just a fun person to see on the screen. He's having a big year between this. I think you should leave season 2. He's just in Werewolves Within, which is an IFC film that just came out based on the game, but it's like a kind of like a comedy horror version of Knives Out, where you're trying to figure out who is this werewolf. It's a lot of fun. But he's just having a huge year, and he's got some great lines of dialogue in this. He's like a nervous talker guy, and there's the joke. I know it's in the trailer, but there's the joke where he kind of not loads his gun, but he puts the clip in, and they're like, "It's not loaded." And he's like, "Yeah, I'm in a like pressurized cabin, you idiot. Of course I'm not going to load my gun. If I shoot it, everybody's going to get sucked out." And then it pays off later because he didn't load his gun, and they're in Russia or whatever, and the alien's coming after him, and he's like, and he's trying to load his stuff on time. Just like a lot of little, I think, thoughtful moments that pay off throughout the movie. And that's the big thing for me is I think that there's a lot of thoughtfulness in this that other movies maybe wouldn't put into like just a blockbuster, you know?
I'd like to know if that chainsaw scene was like a little homage to Gears of War. The way that they killed the alien with like, cause it like the way you went in, it was like right in the head, like the old Gears of War, like when you did the chainsaw gun.
Yeah.
Has
So go ahead.
has Mike been in anything else?
Yes, Mike Mitchell was in most notably he was in Love, the Netflix television series created by Paul Rust, which I would highly recommend. 3 seasons, 10 episodes apiece, very easy watch.
Hang on. You're getting a lot of feedback for some reason. Talk.
Hello, check 1 2 check.
Like,
Hello, feedback.
yeah, it's like a whenever you talk, it sounds like a like a zapping noise.
Any better?
No.
How about now?
Nope.
How about now?
Hang on. You're frozen on my screen. Oh, there you go. All right, talk.
How about now?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes, no.
You're good. Yep.
And let me try again. Hold on. How about now?
Yep.
Is it feedback?
Yep.
Because my laptop's charging. It's gonna be fun to deal with. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, having some technical difficulties. We're gonna get through this episode though. My laptop does not want to charge and record at the same time.
You're gonna call it on your phone halfway through.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna. We're gonna figure it out. It's all good. Um, yes, Mike Mitchell was in Love, and he has some other credits. There's a film called Other People, that's a comedy drama with Jesse Plemons and Molly Shannon. That's very good. Um, Birthday Boys, the sketch series that you would love. That was on IFC for 2 seasons, executive produced by Bob Odenkirk. That's a great watch. So, yeah, I mean, I think this is definitely the biggest thing he's been in.
Nice.
And even though he only maybe had, I would say probably 20 minutes of screen time, he made it halfway into the movie. I'd say he probably has 20, 25 minutes of screen time. I love his presence here. I think he did an excellent job. And I would love to see him get more opportunities because of this. And I think there was a lot of word of mouth on Twitter. A lot of Doughboys fans pushing the word of mouth on the Tomorrow War on his behalf. So hopefully he gets some more opportunities.
Oh yeah. Overall, a very
One thing-
enjoyable film, though. Overall,
Yeah,
very enjoyable.
the one thing I wanted to say too, it just there was references to movies throughout. I caught a reference to Star Wars at the beginning. They say that you're our last hope. There's, I think, and I'm sorry that I don't remember exactly what it was, but I think I caught references to Jaws, and Jurassic Park, and The Thing, with the ship being in there, which is not a blockbuster, but I know it's Chris McKay said on the Doughboys podcast that it's one of his favorite films, favorite horror films. So that feels like an homage, and I don't even, but he didn't write it, but it still does feel like it was directed with the care of somebody who loves
Mm.
this movie about an alien emerging from the ice. And even like aliens, I think this movie is just my favorite thing in the world, and that's when a movie is original, but it also is a blended mix of a lot of great things that you can tell were like influences,
Yeah.
to make something totally new.
Oh, definitely.
So I plug I'm plugging my laptop in between talking to try to get some juice.
I think
Um,
we're good to wrap it up though, man. We can start our close. It's no big deal.
well, let me ask you real quick, briefly. What did you how did you feel about? Because I can't tell if I'm off base about this, but like I said, I would think emotional stuff really worked for me in this. It worked for me that Chris Pratt, he meets his daughter 30 years later. She tells him all this stuff about how he left their mother and how he abandoned them the same way his father abandoned them, and how second chances are important. And again, I think any other movie would have ended with he brings the toxin back and whatever. But I do think that the comes back, he gives his father, who is J.K. Simmons, who is awesome, um, a chance to meet, his daughter, and he kind of uses basically what that timeline is, null and void, because they've used this toxin to destroy, to keep the future war from happening. So his daughter's not going to die in this future war, and so he has this opportunity to make sure that he doesn't, follow in the footsteps of his father. And I think it really worked for me,
Yeah.
um, personally.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the emotional stuff is concerned, I mean, it was nice. It was nice to see him kind of like work with his daughter and build this toxin and have that like father daughter moment that she needed, because in this timeline he left and died in a car accident and she was never able to grow up with a dad, kind of similar like stories for him. And it was nice seeing them like bond, and she got in this timeline she got the time spent with her dad, and they had that beautiful bonding moment, to almost to a fault, where he wanted to save not only his future daughter but his current daughter, so he almost ruined it so nobody was alive. Um, but luckily he was able to jump and kind of like honor her. And then through all of this, after everything's said and done, that nice touching moment where he does introduce his father. He meets her for the first time at the end, so that's cool.
Another thing I really love that yeah, that scene where his future daughter dies. She explains that the last day she saw him was the day that he died, because he was in the ICU after this car accident and she was there. He passed away, and you get this flip side thing of, him being there for his daughter and not wanting to leave when she's going to die. Um, and again, it's like I don't know how else to explain it, and I could be off base. Sometimes you gotta like lead with your gut. You like what you like. I'm not going to tell everybody this movie's the most intellectual movie I've ever seen in the world, or that there's no plot holes. But what I'm going to tell you is, like, I was more than thoroughly impressed with this as a blockbuster. I liked this just as a movie. Then you take into account it's this big summer blockbuster that a lot of people would try to water down for audiences or whatever, have it be very simple. And it's not like it's hard to understand or follow, but I think that there was like a lot of thought and care put into this project, and I think it shows. Um, I think I speak for both of us when I would say I definitely recommend this movie highly. I enjoyed it a lot more than probably anything I've watched in a while, especially in blockbuster territory, and People should give this a go. This is the kind of movie that deserves to be watched, so that more movies like this get made. You know, you go see Marvel movies if you want to see Marvel movies. That's totally fine, but they're not going to have trouble funding their next 10 films. Go see a movie like this because we need more original stories like this. You know.
100%, man.
So with
100%.
that being said, Chris McKay, Mike Mitchell, Mary Lynn, I can't pronounce her last name. It starts with an R. It's like a well, Sam Richardson, Chris Pratt's there. Uh Betty Gilpin is there. All these people roll up to the bar. After hours, we're closing up, but they want in, they want to drink. What are we doing, Jimmy?
Man, we're opening up a hatch. We're going downstairs and we're going to the after hours club where they're drinking for free. All besides Mike Mitchell, who's running away scared from all the questions that you're asking him for meeting him for the first time, and Larry Fong and
Yeah.
me talking about how he's been a cinematographer for all these cool movies.
You
Yeah.
guys talking about 300 for 12 hours?
Like, how did you do what?
I think, yeah, I agree with you. These guys are drinking for free all night. Have them in. I think just a real party, a real hoot, a group of people. How could I forget J.K. Simmons? Bring that guy in. I want to talk to him all about Spider-Man. Guys, The Tomorrow War, just a great blockbuster and a really, really good film in both of our opinions. So please go watch it on Amazon Prime. We hope you enjoy it. This has been After the Movies. Jimmy, tell them about what they get if they sign up for our Patreon.
Oh man, you get a whole lot of good stuff, but more that pertains to this show. You can talk about the movies in real time with us as we watch them before the podcast for less than a cup of coffee a month. Then, if you want to be a true, real, hardcore supporter, you can also give a little bit more, which you can see all our behind the scenes content for Lomo Media as well. But for the movies, all you got to do is slap on a $3 tier and you're right in our Discord talking about these movies and possibly some special supporter only podcasts here in the future.
2 films a week. And Jimmy, we saw a film. We were recently together, previously on At the Movies. Long time no see.
Long time.
Yeah, I feel like it's been at least 24 hours since I've seen you. Yeah, you were just at my house. Sorry, this is a flashback to the episode of At the Movies that we did right before this. We went to go see a movie together. We went to a movie theater, which we both love, a very sacred experience for both of us. And we saw Forever Purge, a film that I'm not going to spoil how we felt about it. We will talk about it. What I am going to say is I don't think people like these movies. But historically in the past, I have disagreed with those people. So we will be talking about that next week. You can find our next episode of At the Movies, Room 237, will be up on Tuesday, followed by The Forever Purge next Thursday. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We really hope you enjoy the show. We hope you watch The Tomorrow War. And as Jimmy said, if you'd like more content, if you'd like to join us while we watch the films, definitely, grab a Patreon sub, less than a cup of coffee a month, and join us on Discord. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in and for patronizing the Lomo Lounge.
But in the meantime, get the hell out of my bar.
Get out of my bar! I don't know what voice I'm doing. Cut it.